Avocado.
Telling your story is the secret to survival. The entire journey matters, from your departure to your arrival. When you tell your story, you carry others with you. Because if you die today, how else would they miss you? More important than the story you tell the world is the story you tell yourself. It's the difference between poverty and wealth, sickness and health. It's all about how you interpret the cards you're dealt. Be conscious of your words and your actions. Will they bring sin or will they bring satisfaction? It takes guts and glory to tell your story, but it'll all be worth it in the end. Don't you worry. Don't be sorry. Don't be in a hurry to apologize for speaking your truth. It's your human right. It's your prerogative. Even though they may remind you that truth is relative, you are forever and always the master of your narrative. Any event from your past can mean what you want it to mean. You can look into the future and it will be what you want it to be. Obviously, reality is what happens in between. Circumstances will change from scene to scene. You will endlessly hop from dream to dream, trying to figure out how to run your scheme, all the while laughing at yourself through a Jordan crying meme. Whatever happens, you get to decide what to hold on to and what to let slide. It's your story, so you can tell just one side, or both. Either way, the power of your story is not a joke. Don't sleep, my friends. Stay woke. You are now listening to The Young God, a podcast for the gods. Hello friends, I'm Rodney and you're welcome to The Young God. Good to have you back, carrying on from where we left off, from episode 1. And I have a question for you guys. A very simple one. Do you know your story? Have you ever considered what your story is, like what you sound like what your life journey reads like? Have you found the thread that connects everything you've ever done? Are you a hero or a villain? Okay, that was several questions, but the main thing is, do you know your story? Because this episode is all about mastering your narrative, your story. And why is knowing this so important? Why do you need to pay attention to it? You see, these days, storytelling has become just another buzzword in marketing and branding. And I would know, I'm a brand strategist by profession, by day, podcaster by night. But yeah, so I hear these things all the time. I tell my clients all the time, it's what I use to sell them, my expertise and my services. We hear the word so much, it's become pure water, basically. Like, it's become so commonplace. They tell us that our stories are important and telling them matters. And I agree. But I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to break it down like you've never heard it before. I'm going to give you the truth about storytelling that will have you running off after this episode trying to figure out how to tell yours. You think you know everything there is to know about stories? Hold my tea. Wait, let me sip it first. Yeah. And then after that, I'm going to get practical and share with you fun facts about myself. No, not fun. Fantastic facts. Fantastic because, like I said in the last episode, these are not your average facts. These are crucial elements of my history, my story, that will give you pieces to the puzzle of the young God. In fact, some of these facts are quite serious. Ain't nothing fun about them. And as I said in episode 1, I'll be more vulnerable than I've ever been thus far. And those fantastic facts are a good way to start. And just a quick heads up, guys. This episode is going to be a long one, and I hope you can keep up. Make sure you're comfortable. Whether you need a wine or a beer or a joint, or maybe take on a chore, I guarantee that this episode will make anything less of a bore. Alright then, let's get into it. Oh wait, hold on. Before we get into it, let me take a moment to remind you that this episode is supported by 8689 Foods, specifically their line of artisanal granola. You see, granola is a breakfast food or snack containing oats, nuts, honey, and other sweeteners like brown sugar, except that 8689 Foods doesn't contain any of those. It's sugar-free. There are a lot of granola recipes out there, but this is a keeper. I've tried them. They come in 4 distinct flavors, all of which I've tasted. First is called Cocoa Nuts About You, which contains, well, coconuts. The next is called Nutty by Nature, which contains assorted nuts. Then there's Reasonable, as in reasonable, which contains raisins. And finally, they've got the last one called Choconola, which contains chunks of chocolate. Yum. And as a brand guy, I love the fun names that they've given these products. It shows that they put a lot of thought into their craft, and that goes a long way. Trust me. I also like the fact that the products are vegetarian and sugar-free with no preservatives, coloring, or gluten. And apart from the great taste, the thing I noticed is that granola helps with bowel movement, which is underrated after you get to a certain age. So do check them out on IG at 8689 Food. That's 80, that's the word 80, followed by the number 6 and 9, so 8689. Tell them Rodney sent you for a discount. All right, back to the mission at hand. If you remember in the opening poem, I said that telling your own story is the secret to survival. Let that sink in. I'm not going to break it down just yet. Just let it sit with you, and maybe you'll come to your own conclusions. But I guarantee that it'll all make sense in the end. So telling your own story is one of those things that separates gods from mere mortals. You see, gods know their stories, and they know how to tell it, while the average person isn't really aware that they're living a story, let alone knowing how to tell it. If you master your narrative, if you master your story, it will give you power, give you confidence. It will give you insight into your being, your person. It will get you closer to your truth. Keep in mind that everybody acts out the story, but very few people know what that story is. And you should know. You should know what your story is because it might be a tragedy. And trust me, you don't want to be a tragedy. So once you know your story and you've recognized it, it's time to tell it. And what I just found out recently is that there's a science to telling one story. Listen up, friends. I'm about to take you to school. I'm about to give you the gist that makes this thing so important, so life-changing. So basically, personal storytelling happens in 3 layers. These 3 layers signify the 3 aspects of the self. In psychology, these 3 aspects are the actor, the agent, and the author. Right? Are you with me? Okay, cool. So starting from birth, you are what is called an actor. At this stage, you have personality traits, you interact with the world, and you have roles to play. So you are someone's son, daughter, neighbor, nanny, whatever. But then as you get old enough, you start to have goals. Now you become an agent. As an agent, you're still playing your role as an actor, but now you have desires and you're making decisions in the hope that they produce desired outcomes. And this happens until finally you become an author, where you begin to combine ideas about the future with the experiences of your past and present to form your ultimate narrative. So all of this is what mastering a narrative is about. Getting to that author point where you can now decide what your past experiences mean and what the future will become. This is what they call taking control of your life. This authorship phase begins, let's say, in the late teens and early adulthood. depending on your upbringing and how well you've developed the cognitive tools needed to create a coherent life story. You see, people from poor homes, abusive homes, or strict homes tend to arrive at the author stage pretty late, or most times never. They just never end up taking control of their lives. While those who maybe left home at a young age, had a well-adjusted upbringing, went to good schools, and had that freedom to express themselves from a young age, those become authors really quickly. Remember, I mentioned the cognitive tools needed to tell a life story, right? There are two. The first is causal coherence, which is the ability to describe how one event led to another, and thematic coherence, which is the ability to identify the general themes and patterns that recur throughout your story. I hope this is making sense, guys. I really hope this is not too complicated, but I promise it will all make sense in the end. Yeah, so telling your story is kind of like a rehearsal for a play, right? When you share your story honestly and authentically, it starts a conversation. The person listening becomes curious and wants to know more. They ask questions. Some you've been asked before, others you've never even considered. These questions serve as the rehearsal that strengthens your performance as an actor in the great play that is life. They strengthen the connections you have with yourself. So when I tell you guys things about myself, the things I tell you become more insightful and memorable to me because I speak about it. I learn more about myself in the process of talking about myself, of speaking about myself, of telling my story. I've learned so much about myself toasting babes, for example. Those long conversations can get very deep and revealing. If you know, you know. Sometimes, some things I've never known or understood about myself become clearer when I walk through those stories with strangers or lovers and friends. Yeah. Unfortunately, many people are not ready to have these conversations because they're not ready to know what their stories are. They're not ready to be vulnerable. And that's why they say that vulnerability is strength. Because in the act of being vulnerable, you learn more about yourself. And that's where that strength lies, not in the vulnerability itself, but in the lessons you learn about yourself in the process. Those lessons make you better, make you wiser, make you more self-aware. That's the strength. Let that sink in, people. It's why some people get anxiety attacks when they're asked, "What's your story?" It's not because it's a cheesy pickup line. It's not because it's been overused and whatever excuse people give. That's just a lie people tell themselves. The truth is because they don't know what their story is in clear terms. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to answer it in a way that is convincing and interesting. They haven't really thought about it. Their life is all a blur. They just go through life without reflecting on their experiences and fitting those experiences into narratives. Guys, was that an earthquake I heard, or did I just shake this table too hard? What? We're in the spirit right now. But just as there are consequences to telling a story, there are consequences to not telling them as well. So if you're the kind that's afraid of how people might react to your story, if you're afraid of being vulnerable, you will miss out on that enrichment that comes with back and forth conversation. Every time you shy away or avoid talking about yourself, you're really just doing yourself, right? Have you been in a situation where a conversation with someone changed what you thought about yourself, what you think you knew about yourself? A good listener will give you things to think about, or maybe help you see this thing you thought was really awful was not such a big deal. So it allows you to update the old meanings of past experiences. That's what growth is all about, in the end. When you're able to learn from past experiences and gain new insights every time you revisit them with different people. This is why talk therapy is so important. Reason it. Reason this shit. So what all this long story means is that a life story is written in chalk, not ink. So it can be changed. You're both the narrator and the main character. You're a god in this equation. And gods create themselves. They create opportunities and they create things. That's what it means to be made in the image of God. To be able to utilize this creative power and apply meaning to anything we so choose. That's a fucking revelation. Can I get an amen? You better say amen. Oh. God is watching. All this long talk is making me hungry. Speaking of hunger, don't forget to check out 8689 Foods on IG. You will thank me later. The granola goes great with yogurt, ice cream, cereal, or you can just have it on its own. Just tell them Rodney sent you for a discount. Facts only. Speaking of facts, we have now arrived at the moment you've all been waiting for. Okay, I don't know about you, but I've been waiting for it. I can't wait to go through these fantastic facts. I can't wait to share them with you. Let me sip some tea for this one. First things first is, I was born in South Korea. While my mates were being born in mainstream places like the UK, the US, or right here in Nigeria, there I was being born at 6 a.m. in one of the most random countries on earth. And I'm extremely proud of that fact. I feel like I've been different since day one. Kudos to my parents for their role in that one. Next is I was named after writer and activist Rodney King. I actually found out just this year. How weird is that? So I was having a random conversation about the George Floyd protests with my mom, and then she was like, "You were named after Rodney King, the black man who was brutally beaten up by the police in 1991. And I was shook because all this time, I thought they named me Rodney because it was a unique name. I thought they just wanted to be different, you know? And people would ask me what my name meant, and I would be like, I don't know, you know? Do you know how much more interesting I would have seemed all this time if I busted the story out every time someone asked me? You know? For 29 years, I've been living a lie. But now I know. And now everybody's gonna know. You know, so Rodney King was brutally beaten by police officers in Los Angeles in 1991. And at that time, he was the equivalent of George Floyd, except he survived to tell the story. And Rodney King's beating happened on March 3rd, 1991. And I was born April 5, 1991. So between the 3rd of March and the 5th of April that year, the LA riots happened in protest of Rodney King's treatment, similar to the protests that happened during George Floyd's death. And, you know, Rodney King became the most famous black person in the world at the time. He was so famous that my parents named me after him. So there you have it. I'm a Nigerian guy named Rodney who was born in South Korea. That's some unicorn shit. That's one hell of a story, man. That's one hell of a story. Here's another fact that you wouldn't believe. I share the same birthday with my brother, who's 6 years younger than me. Yeah, we're born on the same day, April 5th, just 6 years apart. I love telling that story as well. I don't know how it happened. I don't think my parents planned it. I mean, how can you possibly plan that sort of thing? No one plans for that. You know, and I often think that my brother and I were supposed to be twins, just with the way we complement each other. We're not the same, we're not similar, but we complement each other very, very nicely. And it's really something. So yeah. I have a sweet tooth, but I mostly prefer fruit-flavored candy and sour candy like gummy bears, Haribo, lollipops. I love desserts, you name it. If it's sweet, I'm in there. I can now add granola to that list because these things are also yummy as well. Shout out to 8689 Foods. Check them out. Shameless plug. My favorite desserts at the moment are cheesecake and Pain Perdue. Pain Perdue. Y'all, if you're following me on Instagram on my personal page at @_Rodney Avio, you would know that I just found Pain Perdue and they're like the most delectable, evil things ever created in an oven. It's so delicious, so delicious, you know. And when I found it, randomly at this cafe in Abuja. I've been hooked. Yeah. I have small hands for a man. They're so slender and delicate. When I'm having a handshake with someone, my palm just disappears. But yeah, despite their small size, because of their small size, I call them artists' hands. Because they're made to fit into small spaces. Yes. Get your mind out of the gutter. I was talking about 86, 89's granola packs. My hand fits right in there when I'm trying to get a handful of some of that granola goodness. Y'all get your minds out of the gutter. I'm a child of God. I didn't have a date to the prom, both junior and senior prom, and it still pains me to this day. Oh my God. Like I think about it more than I should. You would think I'd be over it now but yeah, it still irks me to this day, you know. Maybe it's because girls my age didn't like me very much. I can't blame them though. I was a nuisance. God damn. But yeah, levels have changed. That's not the case these days anymore. We thank God for growth. Just ask them about these small hands. Woo! Man, I'm in spirit, y'all. Forgive me. Yeah, another fact is that I was so obsessed with growing sideburns back in the day that I used to apply methylated spirit to my face to make them grow faster. Turns out I didn't need that because I have hair everywhere. So if I was to give my younger self a message, it would be to put down that bottle of spirit, bro. You won't need it. I got hair for days. For days. When I got into uni, I didn't know what I wanted to study, so I asked the course manager what courses had the most women. She told me journalism and international relations. I enrolled so fast. Yeah. The most important decision in my life, I made it based on how many women did the same thing. Yeah, I love women. I love you guys. I like my women bold, that's another fact. I like them bold and daring and, you know, those things that most men would find intimidating, I find extremely attractive. Can't get enough of that shit. Fun fact, fantastic fact, I consider Lil Wayne to be a role model for me. I know it's weird because when you think of a role model, you think of Barack or Will Smith or LeBron James, but if you know him like I know him, you would know that Lil Wayne is a class act. Not only is he a high quality musician, he's also a high quality human being. No cap. He played a huge role in my story, in the person I am today. And I feel for anyone who doesn't see his value. He's a gift. We're lucky to have him alive and active and aging with grace, man. And just listen to this, one of the reasons why I love him so.
We don't approach things like we're good. We just approach things like we're gonna work and we're gonna work hard. And hard work pays off. If you work that hard, you're gonna get good. And good turns to great. And hopefully I'm the definition of that.
Do you think you're great?
I do.
And did you ever think, am I a good role model? You know, am I a good example for people on how to live their lives?
I'm not an example for people on how to live their lives, and never in my life would I ever set out to be an example for people on how to live their lives. If you need an example for how to live, then you just shouldn't have been born. Straight up.
Fantastic fact, I have a favorite quote, which is, to improve is to change, to perfect is to change often. That's from Winston Churchill. You know, I like it because it's just an ode to constantly evolving and learning and upgrading and, you know, that journey to being the best version of yourself. So if you want to improve, you have to change. But if you want to be the best version, you have to change often. Pushing the levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. Boss fights only, man. Another quote I like is, seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth. If you know, you know. I won't talk too much about that one. I have one tattoo on my entire body, just one tattoo, and it's on my inner right arm, and it's a symbol for being in the moment. Fantastic fact, I have this irrational fear of being struck by lightning. Yo, man, if you see what, oh man, I hate being outside my home or outside in the open when there's a thunderstorm, or when it's raining, just anything that has to do with lightning striking places. I just have this fear that I will be struck by lightning and I will die. Or even worse, I'll be struck by lightning and I will live to tell the story. What? Can you imagine like 100 million volts of electricity striking you in a second? What? I don't know how people that survive that shit survive it, but it's just, that's fucking like Thor. Like, what? Do you know how, like, what you must have done in your past life for the odds to be so against you for lightning to strike you while you're just doing some random shit? Yeah, that's not for me. I legit can't deal. I'm a Christian. That's not a fact. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised that I'm a Christian. I am not an atheist or agnostic or any of those things that the cool kids are into. I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. I believe in a higher power. I believe in God, but not like an entity that is outside of me, judging me, needing my praise and worship, who's gonna send me to hell for eating too much granola. Shout out 8689 Foods. I think God is within me. He's a part of me. You know, He is me. You know, He is manifested through me. You know, that's how I see it. I don't see Him as someone that is separate from me. Yeah. And though I'm a Christian, I am not a churchgoer. Why? I don't go to church for the same reason I don't go to the hospital when I'm healthy. Yeah, I said it. I don't go to church for the same reason I don't go to the hospital when I'm healthy. I get it. Whatever church offers is cool. I'm not hating on anyone who goes to church, but I just don't need it personally. It's not for me. I believe that I've figured out a very personal and fulfilling relationship with God. It works for me, and I respect those who enjoy church. In fact, I can see why. I mean, I've been like, I get the appeal, right? I'm not gonna say that church is bad for anyone. You know, it's just not my thing. I believe in spirituality over religion. Basically, if religion is understanding God in the collective narrative, then spirituality is finding God in our own personal stories. Take a moment to breathe on that one. No, really. Breathe. If religion is understanding God in the collective narratives, then spirituality is finding God in our own personal stories. Man, I am spitting out here today. I am spitting. You know, I may not be a devout Christian, but I know the Bible very well. So the next fantastic fact is I have read the Bible cover to cover. I did that in high school, from Genesis to Revelations, man. And I have several favorite Bible verses. One of them is, "Be wise as serpents and gentle as doves." That one hits so hard for me. Like every time, like it's something I live my life accordingly, you know? And that's Matthew 10:16. I'm not gonna go into what it means. I'm not gonna go into details right now, but in the future, I'm gonna make an episode dedicated to my favorite Bible verses and what they each mean to me, how I interpret them in my life, in my stories. Fantastic fact, I am not a nice guy. I don't go out of my way to be nice to people. It's too much pressure. I just treat people as they are. And I like to think I'm a good guy, not a nice guy. There's a difference. I don't aim to please, but I can when I want to. I think that's the difference. I save my niceness for those who deserve it. You know, I don't just spill it everywhere like it's pure water. Nah, fam. Oh, and this fantastic fact is actually like so key right now. This next one is, I'm very misunderstood. But that comes with the territory. When you're like me, when you speak like I speak and think like I think, being misunderstood is the order of the day. For example, people think I'm vain because I happen to be handsome and take a lot of pictures. That's not true. People think I'm narcissistic because I'm handsome and have a self-assured attitude. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but I don't think they mean narcissist in a good way. I like to think I'm a healthy narcissist. A healthy narcissist. A well-adjusted narcissist. It's different. Put some respect on my name. People think I'm a womanizer because I'm handsome and, sound the way I sound. Talk the way I talk. No. I'm a womanizer because women are amazing. Simple. Period. Okay? People think my goal is to attract attention when I share certain opinions, and I don't blame them. I really don't. How else could they know? They don't know me personally, so it's natural to have an assumption based on their own worldview. But if you know, you know. You know. People think when I say I'm a god that I'm being boastful and braggadocious. But it's deeper than that. And I wish they would get this one. This one is so important to not misunderstand. But you guys get me. That's why I bring this to the podcast. You guys are my people. And I thank you for that. I think we're almost at the end of this fun fact, fantastic fact segment. My taste in music is impeccable. That's a fantastic fact. I have a good ear for sounds, man. Voices, melodies that bang. If it sounds good, I got it. It connects. Like I can pick it out from a mile away. Doesn't matter the genre. And my parents have to thank for that. They put me onto the good stuff at a very early age, and then my tastes evolved from there. Fantastic fact, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Okay, and this doesn't mean what you think it means. This has nothing to do with romance or womanizing at all. What it means is that I don't force or fight things. I simply let things be and, let things go from there. Love is about letting things unfold and letting people exist as they are and just adjusting to things as they happen. That's what it means to be a lover. That's my secret to mental health, if you ask me. I ain't got no problems. Okay? My blood type. Fantastic fact. My blood genotype is AA and my blood group is O+, O positive. Do not play with me. I can save your life. I am hot cake in the streets. Yes. And the last fantastic fact of the evening is I was a musician back in the day and I went by the stage name Dirty Sexy Rodney. If you listen to the first episode, you already knew that. But check out check out episode 3 for the formal introduction to my music. It's lit. Dirty Sexy forever. Even though it's Young God right now, but that was who I was. Don't laugh, don't judge. I was a young man back then. I was very impressionable, but I was onto something. There was a method to my madness, and you know more about that in the next episode. So yeah, that's that for fantastic facts. How fantastic were they? I want to hear your thoughts. Please hit me up on the Young God Telegram group, which we now have. Let us know what stood out to you. And if you haven't joined the group, please hit the link in the description of this episode and you'll be automatically added. That's where all the Young Gods hang out and we talk about Young God things and just things, we just vibe like that. So yeah, this is what mastering your narrative looks like. So when someone says to me, tell me about yourself, I don't shy away. I already know what to say. I don't feel some type of way. I simply slay. In fact, I welcome it. I can't wait to tell my story because it is such a healthy exercise. Telling your story is good for your mental health. I can testify. Self-expression is salvation. Let that sink in. I'm gonna say it one more time for those in the back. Self-expression is salvation. It can save your soul. That's why I said in the beginning that telling your story is the secret to survival. You die 1,000 times every time you hold back your truth. Something else that's really cool about these fantastic facts I shared is that you can draw a line connecting different aspects of my character and personality. You must have gained some more insight into this person whom you listen to every week. You must have learned a little bit about how I see myself and the world and what makes me tick. Now imagine knowing yourself at that same level of intimacy. Man, I sincerely hope I'm doing this episode justice, because Lord knows this is gold. I feel like I'm spitting. I feel like I'm saying some shit that matters. You know, and also knowing your story comes in handy during job interviews and when you're toasting a potential partner. I cannot stress this enough. Your story is what seduces them into seeing you as an interesting person, as someone they could learn from, as someone they want to be around. Look back at my fantastic facts for a second. Just think of it, right? The right combination of those facts can make me seem super interesting to anybody in any situation. Just the fact that I was born in South Korea already piques interest in people. And that's just for me. You got to figure out your own story and, how your story makes you special, makes you you. Because these are the things that make people connect with each other. Because subconsciously, we all want to be part of a good story. We want to witness how the rest of the story unfolds. Or maybe we just like a good story and we want to hear more of yours. Either way, the more you know your story, the more you can contribute to conversations and collaborations. Telling your story is the secret to survival. On a final note, let me wrap this up by saying that we should revisit our stories often and always. Not just to retell them. We should rewrite them also. Let's learn to interpret what we've been through and what we're going through in a way that makes us stronger and leaves us with a better idea of who we are. Find those thematic and causal coherences in your life. That's how telling your story will save your life. That's what it means to master your narrative. This is how you become a god. This entire podcast has been an exercise in me mastering my narrative since episode 1, season 1. It's a platform where I can tell my own story in my own voice. It's flawless self-expression at its best, and it is my hope that in telling my story, I tell your story. And together, we can make history. This is the Young God.